Okay, guys, so we've been doing lots of tricky word problems that have to be translated into equations. Today, we're going to do some word problems that have to be translated into a proportion. And believe it or not, a proportion is an equation. Think about all the proportions you solved last year. Your goal was to solve for x, and you used an equation to do that. So these are challenging. You have to read them a lot and very carefully in order to set it up correctly. So I'm going to walk you through a few, and then you're going to try a couple on your own. Let's take a look at the procedure. First, read the problem. Obviously, I can't stress this enough. Do not start setting up the problem until you've read it over at least once without writing anything down. Second, determine which variable is being compared to. So, which variable? We're only going to have one variable in the equation, but there are typically two things that you're trying to find. One is being compared to the other. That's going to be the standalone variable. And the other is going to be an expression. Third, write an expression that models that other variable. Fourth, write a proportion that models the problem. Fifth, solve that given proportion by cross multiplying and isolating the variable. And sixth, substitute into the expression found in step 3 to find the second variable or the second thing that needs to be solved for. All right, so let's take a look at an example. Firstly, there's a mistake in your word problem. So you see it in yellow here. And your problem, it says boys to girls. We're going to change it to girls to boys so that it works out properly. Then I'll read the problem. Number 1. Mrs. Kiesler has 12 more boys than girls enrolled in her algebra course. If 2 girls drop the course and 6 boys are added, the ratio of girls to boys is 3 to 5. Algebraically determine the current number of boys and girls enrolled in the class. Okay, so since it's girls to boys, I want to put girls in the numerator, boys in the denominator. Now we go back and think about it again. It says there are 12 more boys than girls. That means boys are being compared to girls. Therefore, girls is just x, and boys is x plus 12. Then it also tells us that the ratio we're trying to get is 3 to 5. So 1/2 of my equation is going to be 3/5. Now I go back. It says if 2 girls drop the course and 6 boys are added, the ratio is 3/5. So girls currently is x, but 2 girls are going to drop to make this ratio complete. And 6 boys, we have x plus 12 right now, we're adding 6, add to make this ratio 3/5. Now let's simplify that. So now x minus 2 over x plus 18 equals 3/5. Now, like it says in the steps, in order to solve for x, we need to cross multiply. So we're going to multiply 3 by x plus 18 and 5 by x minus 2. When we do this, it's kind of like we're using the distributive property, so I'm going to rewrite it that way. So it's going to be 5 times x minus 2 equals 3 times x plus 18. Distributing the 5, we get 5x minus 10. Distributing the 3, we get 3x plus 54. Now I've got x's on both sides with a 5 and a 3. The 3 is smaller, so that's what we're going to subtract. So we get 2x minus 10 equals 54. Adding 10 to both sides, 2x equals 64. Dividing by 2, x equals 32. So x, going back to my original variables, 32 is the x, so it's 32 girls enrolled. And 32 plus 12 is 44 boys enrolled currently in algebra. Okay, we don't want to do the minus 2 and the plus 6. That's what was given just to make the ratio 3/5 or 60%. All right, so there's one example. Let's take a look at another. Number 2, an animal shelter currently has 5 less cats than dogs. If 6 dogs are adopted and 1 more cat is rescued, the ratio of dogs to cats at the shelter is 9 to 10. Algebraically determine the current number of cats and dogs in the shelter. So again, because it says ratio of dogs to cats, I want my numerator to be dogs and my denominator to be cats. So dogs on the top, cats on the bottom. Now, in the top first sentence, it says currently has 5 less cats than dogs. Cats are being compared to dogs, so dogs are x, and there's 5 less cats, so x minus 5. Now we start building our ratio. We know the ratio is going to be 9 to 10 or 90%. Okay, so then we have If 6 dogs are adopted, so 6 dogs are being adopted, they're being taken out of the shelter. So that's x minus 6 over, and one more cat is rescued. So that's x minus 5 plus 1. So then that's one more cat being put into the shelter, equals 9/10. Now we simplify. X minus 6 over x minus 4, because -5 plus 1 is -4, equals 9/10. Now we cross multiply. 10 times x minus 6, 9 times x minus 4, gives me 10 times x minus 6 in parentheses equals 9 times x minus 4 in parentheses, which is 10x minus 60 equals 9x minus 36. Now we have variables again on both sides. I want to move the smaller of the two to the other side. So I subtract 9x from both sides. Cancels. 10x minus 9x is 1x minus 60 equals negative 36. Don't forget the negative. If I didn't put that negative in there, that would mess up my answer. Add 60 to both sides. So x equals 60 minus 36, which is 24. So x is our number of dogs. So there are 24 dogs in the shelter. And 24 minus 5 is 19 cats currently at the shelter. So hopefully this is making sense. I'm going to do one more example with you before you're on your own. Okay, so number 3. Jackson lost 12 points on a test and does not know the number of points total on the exam. He does know that he earned an 85. Algebraically determine how many points the exam consisted of. All right, so this one seems like it doesn't give us that much information, but it really does. So we know that he took a test. We know his points, and we can try to figure out the total number of points. All right, so an 85 means he got 85 out of 100. And we know that he lost 12 points. So if the total test is x points and he lost 12 points, that would be x minus 12. Okay, so now we can set up our ratio. X minus 12 is going to be the 85 and x is going to be the 100. All right, cross multiply. 85 times x, 100 times x minus 12. That's 85x, and 100 times x minus 12. So that's 85x equals 100x minus 120. No, yes. Okay, then we subtract 100x from both sides to get the x by itself, or 1x. We get negative 15x equals negative 120. Divide by negative 15, divide by negative 15, and x is, I want to do my math over here because I'm not 100% sure that I did that correctly. 100 times 12 for some reason. I'm not, oh, I knew I messed that up. Should be 1200. And hopefully you caught that without my help. And then you divide that by 15 is 80. So x equals 80. So if there were 80 points total on the test, 80 minus 12 will give you the number of points he earned, which is 68 points. And 68 out of 80 would wind up being an 85. I can show you that. If we do 68 divided by 80, there it is, the 85%. Okay, and we want to make sure we actually answered that question correctly. Algebraically determine how many points the exam consisted of. So the final answer is the test or exam had a total of 80 points. Done. All right, so now you are on your own with 2 examples. Again, work with your partner if you need to, raise your hand if you need to. If you know think you've got it right, always make sure you're checking in with me first to be sure you've got it right before moving on to the next problem.